Hey, I'm Amar.
And I'm Matthew.
And this is Our Side of the Coin. Hey guys, I feel like we do the same intro every week, so I'm just going to get right into it. We're going to talk about whether or not voting should be mandatory today. As usual, Matthew, go ahead, take it away.
So, I'm going to be arguing this, mainly from, a U.S. perspective. So, should voting be mandatory in the U.S.? My opinion is that it should be. It wouldn't be easy to make it mandatory. There'd be a lot of pushback, but I just think it would overall be beneficial.
I feel that the effort necessary in order to make it mandatory is not worth the time, and generally, I just don't feel like it should be mandatory. If you don't feel like voting, you shouldn't have to go vote.
I think if we were to make voting mandatory, one thing you would have to do is you would have to put an abstain option on the ballot. There would have to be a way where you go to the polls but still not vote for anybody. Because, fair enough, there are lots of times where maybe you don't agree with either party or you don't think both parties will do a good job. But still, I say that we should make voting mandatory because it'll force more people to think about their candidates' choices, just a little bit, because they have to vote anyway, so they might as well think about it.
And that's great, but the thing is, if these people, and two things, one, I feel like abstain should not end up on that ballot if it does become mandatory, because even the point of this is to get everybody to choose, right? And so it is of the people. Did you want to say something? Go ahead.
Yeah, I wouldn't say the point of this is to force people to choose. I would say the point of this is to force people to think about it. To make a decision, and making no decision is a decision. But just not being too lazy to make a decision.
But if you're forcing people to vote, then generally to get in there, I gotta go vote today. Get up, go to the voting poll. What ends up happening is they take a look at a name, right, and you're like, who is this? I heard about them, blah, blah, blah. And they check it off, not really knowing the policies and making an uneducated vote.
I feel like at that point you would just check mark none of them. If you don't really take it that seriously, then you wouldn't.
But that's a lot of time wasted for people. Money is time now.
Well, I mean, another thing we could do is not make it on Tuesday. I have no idea why it's on Tuesday of all of the days. You could have made it. Do you really
want to get out on your Saturday and go vote?
I mean, it doesn't take that long.
It takes pretty long. Most lines are
an hour. I think I can get what you're saying. I feel like you could.
Now, if we had a more efficient voting system, I can see that. If it was electronically, without the danger without the danger of being hacked.
Electronic voting is just don't try.
Yeah,
don't try.
We can't try it yet. We're not there yet. But it is a possibility in the future.
This is another debate. We'll save for another time. But okay. I don't think electronic voting will ever be viable. But we'll move on past the point. I feel like that is an inconvenience that we should probably bear because it's the government of the country. It's how the country runs. I feel like it's important enough to...
If the people who don't know who they're voting for end up voting for somebody, that could ultimately hurt the country in a whole. Because now people who don't know what they're doing... It's like if you're letting a janitor take over our NASA's headquarters.
But I feel like people wouldn't just randomly pick an option.
People would.
But why? If you could just pick...
Why would people even care? Some people are just trying to live day to day. They don't care about what's going on.
I mean, some people might not care. Fair enough. Go vote.
A lot. A lot of people are in a situation where they're living day to day.
Just go to the poll. I mean, I sort of get what your argument is, and it's pretty hard to argue against, but my view is just, if you're going to go to the polls, if you're not going to think about it, fair enough. Just check mark, neither. But
then that's a waste of your time. If time is money, you're wasting... Okay, let's say you're living day to day, your job is paid hourly, you got to get home, you got to feed the kids, and then you have to go waste an hour of your day to go vote?
I feel like the waste of time is compensated for by, the increase in the fairness of the ballot, because more people... people will go and then still not think about it. But I feel like making the vote mandatory will increase the amount of effort people will put into, choosing the right candidate.
Alright, I want to specify this a little bit further. Are we talking about making just, U.S. elections? Or, state elections, local elections? Every year you have to go vote? Every 4 years? Every 2 years?
That's a good clarifying point. The presidential election should be mandatory.
Okay. I can see where that's coming from.
The midterm.
Most people will know.
The midterm election.
The midterm election should be mandatory? Even I didn't even know who was on the midterm ballot myself.
Yeah. I had to help my mom vote, so...
Yeah, exactly my point, right? I just knew who was running for governor. That was it, in Michigan.
Maybe... I don't think the state election should be mandatory. The midterms for the U.S. Congress, like all the federal votes, should be mandatory. So U.S. Congress, U.S. House of U.S. Congress, and President should be mandatory.
Okay. Do we want to talk about a little bit of how this would get into place? How would you make this mandatory?
So I don't know. No, you make it like a legal requirement. In Brazil, voting is mandatory.
Is it?
Yeah, and they have 80%. Can't remember if it's 80% voter turnout or 80% of the people vote. I think it's the latter. But
what's the difference?
80% voter turnout means 20% of the people who had to go vote didn't go vote. Because not everyone is eligible to vote in Brazil because they're too young or something like that. So those are the 20%. So I don't know how well the system works in Brazil, but it's possible to make it.
Okay, so it's possible. I guess the next part is
you're legally required to take the U.S. census. So you're legally required to.
But that's different. The U.S. Census is mandatory in order to file taxes and the like.
Yeah.
The U.S. Census is necessary for the government to function at this point.
Yeah, and who is making all these taxes and stuff? It's the government. And I feel like if you
actually care about how your government is formed, right, and you want to see a change, then you go vote, right? Why are we forcing all these people who don't care to go vote?
Because I feel like no matter what, the government is going to affect you.
It's a right. It's not a privilege. It's not like we can take it away from them. If they feel like voting, they can go vote, right?
Well, I feel like more people should be voting to
Okay, more people should be. Of course, there's nothing wrong with voting, but when we don't want to have the wrong people who don't know much about the government or how it works voting either.
I keep saying I feel like I think that you could also try to increase the education along with making the voting mandatory.
I mean, that's already been attempted, but people don't care.
But if they are forced to vote, I feel like they would care more.
In what way? Okay, so let me put it this way. Some people, right, everybody has to take a test in a room, right? Some people will obviously prepare, make the best choices, and score highly. That we can call these people who, vote and, in order to progress the country, not for their personal agendas, right? And you have the people who are just scraping it, right, just to get by, right? And then you have people who just utterly don't care, fill in the bubbles, don't, just leave it to God, and just, not my problem anymore.
I mean...
And that's the issue, and that translates over to all of the U.S. citizens.
But I feel like they're just... I don't feel like they're hurting the people who are voting, the people who aren't. Well, they are. They are
definitely hurting all of the U.S.
And that's what I'm trying to reduce by forcing more people to vote, because...
But you're adding to the problem with that.
If... I think I get what you're saying, a ton of people would just, check a random box. But I feel like...
I get what you're saying, too, about, these people would be more inclined to learn. Problem is, we can't control everybody's lives. We can't dictate their financial situation. We can't dictate what time they can go vote, right? And then, especially with that, we would have to definitely increase voting times, and a lot more stuff would have to happen. In order to get there, that'd be a lot more tax dollars.
You could probably make it over the course of a week. Voting.
Voting for a week?
Yeah, any time in that week.
Well, why is it one day right now? There's a reason, isn't there?
I think it's just because it'd be more expensive to make it.
Yeah, but that's my point, right?
But but I'm trying to put the voting on a president. So I'm trying to put the voting in a higher.
And so the thing is, if we were to spread it over a week, right? And I don't know, the way I was thinking about it is for some reason when I was saying that the Russian collusion within the 2016 election came, and now we're not going to talk about the 2016 election. We're going to stay away from that. But the Russian collusion within it, kind of came to mind how easy it is, and it's verified how easy it is to hack electoral systems, right? Yeah. And I don't know. I was thinking if you extend it to a week, maybe there's a way people could go in and commit voter fraud more easily by replicating their own vote somehow with some sort of identity or something, and lead to more askew votes.
Well, if you extend it over a week, I don't think that would make it any more easier, because if you're hacking it electronically, I don't think time is that big of a factor, because
if we were to do this,
and I don't want to really go into specifics, but I mean, there's a good chance that the Russian hacking was consensual. So.
Well, okay, regardless of the Russian hacking, there is evidence that it's very easy to hack the electoral system. And
I wouldn't say that.
Have you heard of HackCon before?
Yeah, HackerCon.
Yeah, HackerCon. I thought it was called HackCon.
Regardless, maybe you're right.
And basically, they, for a training exercise, gave them state pages that had were counting votes, and they were able to very easily manipulate them, right? The very same code, just not in the same database, right? They were very easily, within 15 minutes, able to manipulate numbers however they wanted to.
Yeah, but you need to have access to that page.
People have access to that. That's a public page. You
can see a website.
Yeah, a website.
Okay.
No, not a physical paper.
Why is a website counting votes?
I don't know. To have it, it's access to a database to show who's winning. Because there is live progress on who's winning every time. They're counting continuously. Machines are counting your ballots anyway as soon as you turn them in.
I feel like that's more of a security flaw that could be improved upon regardless of time. I feel like that's a separate
Right,
issue.
but that's our concern. What if we were to go do electronic voting, right?
I don't think electronic voting...
It could happen. It could very easily. I feel like if they were to get rid of these flaws, obviously, I don't know what they were thinking, but these systems need to be way more secure, especially if they're counting all of...
And that sort of goes into my previous point, is I feel like just the voting process is really not that high of a priority. And for this reason, and also just the reason of apathy, and I feel like making
it should definitely be a priority for the government. It is the makeup of the government. The government should be putting way more security than they are on it right now. But it should be up to the people too. It's a right, like I said, not a we can't take it away from people regardless, unless obviously they're given different scenarios which are under law. But you get what I'm getting at, right?
Yeah. So if it's a right, then if it's valuable for them, they should do it anyway.
If they should do it anyway. If they choose not to do it, that's their loss.
But I also...
We shouldn't have to force them to do it, especially if they really don't... If you're forcing them to do it, that means that they don't want to do it. That means that they didn't do any research about it. That means that they don't care about it.
That's... Okay, well, I'll agree with... if they didn't go, that means they didn't really care about it. But I feel like making it mandatory is not as much of a burden as I think you're trying to portray it out to be, because I guess probably polls take a long time. I feel like if you were to make it mandatory, you would add more systems in, not electronic voting, but maybe mail-in voting or something like that, make more options like that, or maybe just refine
mail-in voting would be pretty expensive.
I guess
mail isn't cheap.
Yeah. Mail is not cheap.
But
but that's how they do the census.
Yeah, but that's different. You can skewing with the census that much won't impact the government to a great extent. Messing with voting, right? It's gonna mess up the whole country.
Yeah.
Because you're changing the literal leaders of the U.S. for a while.
Yeah.
I don't know, but the thing with electronic systems is that I feel like eventually, if they were given enough priority, they would be really good, and then we could implement it if this is still a thing. At the same time, it's probably not a good idea to implement it, but people would have more ease of access. Right before they vote, they can Google, who is this, blah, 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 who is this, blah, blah, blah. Have quick, read through this, takes them 5 minutes instead of 2 hours that it currently takes.
The problem is just that electronic voting is...
And you can't even bring in your own research during the current voting poll. You can't pull out your phone during the voting.
Yeah, you can. Because I think the reason for that is because they don't want people... The thing about voting is you want it to be confidential.
Yeah.
You shouldn't have other people know who you voted for, because that leads to a lot of ways for bribery and stuff. And I feel like that sort of... Because a lot is riding on election. Literally billions of dollars are riding on the election. And I feel like electronic voting just opens up so many more... Is this room going to explode?
No, we're good. All the heaters here do that.
You know it's not leaking gas.
It's not, because I would smell it.
Oh, yeah. How do you know it's not, neurotoxin? Somebody put it in.
A neurotoxin. Yeah, somebody put a neurotoxin in.
I don't know. A lot is riding on this podcast. Billions of dollars. Literally billions.
I'm keeping that.
There's a lot riding on the elections. Literally billions and billions of dollars are riding on the elections. And I feel like just making it... Because you're not even doing it, at a secure location where... the confidentiality can be ensured. If you're doing it from your house, it's very easy to just have it be monitored.
Okay, wait. What's the flaw if it's not confidential? Obviously,
people
you don't want to
can be bribed or influenced or threatened or all these sort of things.
That still happens, doesn't it?
Not really. If your vote is confidential, then how?
Well, okay, but who's gonna bribe threaten you? Okay, no. I
Because
can
then if it is confidential, you could they'll just ask you. You can just lie. Then your vote could.
Yeah,
still
but why
be
do you have to do it
true.
in front of somebody?
Well, no, you don't do it in front of somebody, but it's like if you're doing it from your house, somebody could just be there.
I
mean, that's also essentially like because like it's just all those sort of things because there's computers still do a lot of the work in voting because like.
But as necessary, we need to make voting more accessible for people. And
I think
electronic systems might be the best way to go about this with technology evolving, especially if we can work on our cybersecurity, and if we can, that is another issue. And I feel like the best way to get around, people don't really look at your phone. I can see like being like bullied or like tormented into voting for somebody, right? But like, how often would that happen versus the current situation with?
I like I said, like a lot is riding on the election.
Yes.
If somebody has a lot of money or a lot of power or a lot of like will, like they want this person to be in power, people can do all sorts of things. And
I see.
Enable creating like electronic voting and like creating like the distance sort of increases the like how able you are to do.
How do you propose that we make voting more accessible then?
I think one thing could be to make it more convenient, like. Maybe like possibly have more voting locations than just like some random school somewhere.
Okay.
Like maybe you could do like your local post office or something. And because if you have more locations,
I feel like the other thing with electronic voting is that it does save the government quite a bit of money.
It does save the government quite a bit of money, but you then lose the. But if you add electronic voting, you lose the accuracy of the election. That's just in my opinion.
How much though? Would it be worse than now? Would it be a worthy investment? Either way, the government needs to invest in cybersecurity. That's a big
obviously.
thing, regardless.
But I just don't think there's a way you could make an electronic voting system hacker proof or like.
Well, yeah, nothing's hacker proof. The whole point of hacking,
and
but like
so
the way
you get rid of like those sort of security problems is to get rid of the inlets, like get rid of the problems that can occur. And if you're just if you didn't have electronic voting, that would be cutting off an.
Okay.
But then that just sort of also doesn't like that counteracts my argument of increasing electronic voting because you would have to. I agree with you. You would have to make it more accessible. Yeah. You couldn't just leave the system the way it is, where it takes like 3 hours. You couldn't just leave it the same system where it takes 3 hours to vote in like at a line in some school somewhere on a Tuesday.
Yeah, because people who have done their research now like drop out of lines. Oh, this line's way too long. I'll come back later.
Yeah.
Voting's closed now.
I think.
And that's some of the issue. Voting shouldn't be closed so quickly. It's like, what, 12 p.m. to 8 p.m. or something?
Yeah.
And that's way too quick. I understand, right? But, like, they should at least open it from 6 a.m. to, like, 11 p.m. It's one day a year. And
maybe not a week. Maybe more like
a day.
3 days. 3 days. Like Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Yeah. There's an issue with a week, but I can't put my finger on it. There's a reason it's not a week.
Because it's more expensive. You have to keep polls open for a week.
Okay. Yeah, and I don't know we also have to keep in mind that it's for the betterment of the government and for the people itself, and we don't want to be wasting too many tax dollars on setting up, like, you know, how people are voting.
I feel like this, like, making voting mandatory would not be. It would come with a cost. I feel like that cost is worth it.
Okay, well, I mean, I'm just gonna give my final viewpoint. I still don't think that voting should be mandatory.
Yeah.
You obviously heard the reasons, because people who won't know what they're doing will end up voting, and like. Most likely randomly. And now that we also delved into that topic, electronic voting might not be the best idea, but we do need some way to make voting more accessible for the people who do want to vote, because we're cutting off a lot of information.
I'll agree with you that we should open up voting to be more accessible, because I don't think the system is working very well right now. But I don't think that electronic voting is worth it for all of the cons that come with it. And I think that voting should be mandatory to try to influence more people to start like trying to care about who is elected. But I agree with you that it should have problems, and I don't really think I explained my point very well. But no.
Yeah, we were both kind of burnt out today. Sorry for those listening out there. Well, tune in next week. Maybe we'll be more energized.